The New Jersey Devils have played 33 games up to this point, so believe it or not, we're almost halfway done with the NHL season, and right now they sit second in the Metropolitan Division. Joseph Stanislaw, aka Jersey Joe, joined me on today's episode as we share our assessment of the team and where they go from here. We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils alongside Jersey Joe. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here at the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Scott Hockey play announcer, Devils driver, pucks, pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. When you're listening to this episode, I might be making my way to St. Louis, Missouri to cover the New Jersey Devils and St. Louis Blues matchup. But in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoy this episode featuring Jersey Joe, a.k.a. Joseph Stanislaw, my fellow contributor over at Pucks and Pitchforks. Jersey Joe, I was looking back at my previous episodes, and I came to the realization that it's been nearly 3 months since you appeared on this platform. And I'm just like, that has to be a new record for longest amount of time that I've done this show without you making an appearance in some sort of way. So first and foremost, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Hello, everybody. I'm telling you, early in this off-season, start of the season, I think my projection for 114 point projection is on the brink right now. Like we're almost like 40, 45, 50% of the way through the season right now. As someone who does write for Pucks and Pitchforks and, look at the prospects and evaluates other assets for the Devils where they need to be right now because they have the goaltending right now. They're developing the young goalies that they had drafted in past couple of drafts, and that is a good thing because there's no need to run someone out of their skates. So that's why you have Allen. That's why you have Markstrom. This is why you have Dawes taking another year or two to develop. And long story short, Luke Hughes under Brett Pesce is exactly what I expected of Brett Pesce. Being a veteran, being a coach at the same time on the ice, because you can't have Ryan McGill, teach you in the middle of a game. It's good to have a veteran teach a young gun how to play a two-way game.
And it's really exciting so far, and it's a far cry from last season. 33 games played. Devils have a record of 20, 10, and 3. They have 43 points. They are second in the Metropolitan Division, just below the Washington Capitals, who I don't think anyone anticipated for them to be first in the Metro at this point. New York Rangers are slipping. I think for right now, like you just said, the Devils are in a very good position. And what about their previous matchup against the Chicago Blackhawks? They went down 1-0, but then they put together their best third period this season, and they put Thor's hammer down on the Blackhawks.
Did. I mean, Nico Hischier, the past couple of years I've been on your podcast saying Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes both need to learn how to be very strong, not just offensively, but defensively as a unit on two different lines. And with the way that they're increasing their takeaways versus their giveaways, it is making them more productive. It's the way I looked at it over a year or two ago on Pucks and Pitchforks, and I can't stress it as good as I can. And it's so great under Coach Keefe. I look at the hits, the blocks, and the points. Another thing is add the takeaways. You do all those 4 categories. You get a recipe for success. Each and every one of those guys is Sasquatching at a better rate per game. Just think about that. Those 4 categories: hits, blocks, goals, or points. Those are the 4 things that make a team a winning team. Not just winning, consistently running themselves as a contender for the playoffs, and they're running for it. And they're not just doing it, to do it. They're doing it with authority. And look at that, like you reiterated against the Chicago Blackhawks. The Devils may have started off a little slow in the water, and it became a huge tsunami. I mean, Timo Meier chipped in, Nico Hischier chipped in, Mercer scored.
I think Mercer, it was bound to happen because he had, 16 stitches after taking a puck to the face in the prior matchup against the LA Kings, and it seemed like his lengthy Iron Man streak was in jeopardy, and he came out and delivered. And I even said it during that post-game recap episode that I was rather impressed with Dawson Mercer and his performance against the LA Kings. He didn't walk away with anything, but similar to Nathan Bastian when Bastian returned from injury, I saw Mercer and dogged determination and trying to make the right plays, and I just wanted to give credit where credit was due.
So if we look at the past couple of games before, if you minus off the Colorado game, which they were like 8 goals and 8 goals given up, you minus off that 0, so they would have 7 goals for and 4 goals allowed. The Devils are moving on the right track, moving past that Colorado game. That just was weird with Wedgwood in that game. But the past 2 games now, they've waken up their sticks a little bit more, and they're gaining their confidence, and Sheldon Keefe's getting them out of a funk. And if that's as bad of a funk in the meat of the season, maybe a 2-game losing streak is the most consistent of losses that they'll have throughout the season.
Well, here's the thing. Even though they lost the game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, they still walked away with something. And that is completely different compared to the team that we saw last year where they lost too many games in regulation. And I was just like, look, if you're going to lose a game, especially a hard-fought battle, at least take it in overtime so you walk away with something. And you talked about the defensive pairings. Well, I want to highlight one for the Devils, and that is Jonas Siegenthaler and Jonathan Kovacevic. I'm going to say that is one of the best defensive pairs in the NHL. And we have this old saying, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. According to Money Puck, Siegenthaler and Kovacevic are the 3rd best defensive pairing in the NHL. Number 1 is McCabe and Tanev. Number 2, Quinn Hughes. Shout out to the Hughes family. And Hronek. And then Siegenthaler and Kovacevic. And a few spots down below at number 7, Luke Hughes and Brett Pesce. Before we continue our discussion with Jersey Joe, let me tell you guys about Game Time. I've actually used Game Time before to purchase myself some MLB and NBA tickets. Game Time Picks. Creation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. All-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views. Get a good view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's get back to our discussion with Jersey Joe. Take it away once again.
Brett Pesce, I've been telling people, don't look at his age. It's the way he plays for his age. And he's really starting to come in a little bit more offensively, but he's doing more so quietly, blocking more shots. And that's one of the categories that the Devils have really excelled at. When you look at this team versus last year, they were more timid to get in the shooting lanes and blocking more shots and lanes. And now this team will dive in front of a shooter to make Allen or Markstrom more comfortable in net and be like, "Hey, I got you, Marky. I got you, Allen. You're okay. Don't worry." I mean, look at the game versus the Rangers. The Devils go in the first period. That was the most action I've seen. The Devils defense block the hell out of the Rangers opposition, and after that, just like there was a counterattack every time, and that Instagram hockey was born.
Oh man, Belichick. I think I've talked about it a little too much on the show, but to this day I don't know what to this very moment I don't understand what he meant by Instagram hockey. I don't get the point he was trying to make, and I'm just like, I'm sure Panarin has tried that move before. Like, it's a competition. You want to be on the winning end or you want to be on the losing end, and I think Jack Hughes did that particular move because he respects Igor Shesterkin a lot. And I think Hughes, out of any current player in the NHL, has scored the most goals on Shesterkin, who's one of the best goalies in the NHL. His defense is no help. I will give him the benefit of the doubt.
No, and no more Trouba going forward. So there's going to be probably 3 more goals more.
Right. Well, Trouba, all he did was just run around and hurt people. But, you know, it's hockey. It's a contact sport.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, and this is probably the last time I'm going to talk about it. Or, no, it's not. I'm going to make a joke.
No, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's inevitable. But I'm just saying. All I'm just saying is, like, I think Hughes did that particular move because he respects Shesterkin so much that he can't just do the same thing. Otherwise, Shesterkin is going to pick up on it. And honestly, the spirit of competition brings out the best of both sides because Hughes didn't score in that particular circumstance. The one that Valakat was saying, Instagram hockey, Shesterkin made the save. But based on those comments, you would have thought that Hughes made the goal and ended up on SportsCenter top 10. That's not what happened.
No, I mean, well, if there's something that feels like SportsCenter highlight worthy, I mean, you should look at some of those goals the Devils scored on the Blackhawks. Now, that is what I call exciting hockey. I mean, Timo Meier's looking like the guy that was freed from Lindy Ruff, and he's playing stronger on his side of the wing. And he's playing like a true bulldog, and he's shooting pucks more. He's looking very confident in the high danger areas. You know, I sent you a heat map one time of where Timo Meier and a couple other Devils were doing off of NHL Edge. And it showed me that what I was watching from the eye test, that they are pounding those areas and they're wearing out other teams' defenses and like starting to scare the goalie a little bit more in more cycle behind the net. But they're making quick passing plays versus too many long-standing standard like passes that they did last year. This is a completely different driven team that is cycling more with an authority rather than just laying low. They're actually moving around. They're confusing where the defense should be and where the goalie's eyes need to be. So that's something that the Devils are doing well executed under Jeremy Colleton and of course Sheldon Keefe, teaching this team how to play Sasquatch hockey.
Yeah. See, here's the thing. My expectations for Timo are pretty solid because I think he's a very good player, but obviously people aren't really the biggest fans of his contract, but I'm just like, look, if
contract. He's producing. I could care less what they say.
Right. And I'm just like, if the Devils didn't offer him that money, in which he did take a pay cut to come back to New Jersey, there's going to be another team that will sure as hell pay him because players of his body frame that score 40 goals a season, they don't come around too often. And you talked about Timo Meier and the Lindy Ruff circumstance. We all know what happened. He was playing on his offhand. He was playing on the third line, and that was centered by Curtis Lazar. With all due respect, Curtis Lazar, I love him, but he's not going to get the most out of his line mates, which were Dawson Mercer and Timo Meier. That it wasn't going to happen. And he wasn't utilized correctly on the power play either. But then Lindy Ruff gets the can, which, by the way, Lindy Ruff's seat in Buffalo might be a little warm because the Sabres are on a 10-game losing streak.
I feel bad for Buffalo Sabres fans. I mean, when I saw him sign on with the Sabres, I'm like, oh, dear God, this really shouldn't be happening. But to each their own, once again.
Now, I'm going to get back on subject for Timo, but I will just say this nugget for you. The last time the Sabres made the playoffs, which was over, 10 years ago, Lindy Ruff was behind the bench as the head coach. So just putting that out there, they're probably trying to recreate that sort of magic because the last time the Sabres were in the playoffs was when Lindy Ruff was the head coach years ago. But getting back to Timo, he didn't have a bad season last year. He appeared in 69 games. He had 28 goals, 24 assists for a grand total of 52 points. And remember, he had to get off-season surgery similar to Jack Hughes. So he was playing hurt for a decent amount of the season. And the fact that he still produced like that, I think it really showcased his potential and capability. And the thing is, like, people want Timo Meier to be a point-per-game player. I'm just like, I don't think he needs to be in order to be efficient on this Devils team. In fact, looking back at his numbers, the closest he's been to averaging a point per game was the 2021-2022 season when he was with San Jose, 77 games, 76 points. I think people are putting expectations a little too high for Timo, or they're not assessing him correctly and what he's meant to bring. He brings more size to for shorter players like Jack Hughes. He sort of, in your words, he brings a Sasquatch type of presence.
Yeah. So when I look at players, whether it's from their draft year or them playing in the NHL from the last couple of years, I like to look at them as individuals. And Timo Meier is a big body. So you evaluate a big body player who can score big time points, especially a guy like in Edmonton. You have Leon Draisaitl. He's going to use that frame to bully people around. He's going to speed around. He may not be like his line mate Connor McDavid, who pops more points per game, but when you do a little bit of everything, that little, I call it that Sasquatch total play, that, the hits, the blocks, the takeaways, the points, those four categories, you add those four up, you divide it by games played for that player. That player is producing those value points for that team. And that's what teams of like pro scouts look for when trying to acquire those guys like a Timo Meier. If there was a guy I want come by trade deadline, and if Vegas is starting to falter, I am asking for
Alexander Holtz, Akira Schmidt.
No, thank you. No, thank you. I'm looking for that guy that the Blues traded away to Vegas. I'm gonna find that. I'm gonna remember the name soon because I'm gonna look him up. Hold on a second. Because I know he's there. He was a guy I wanted at trade deadline a few seasons ago when Vegas won the cup. Ivan Barbashev from Moscow, 29-year-old, 6'1", 195. He can score points. He can hit. He brings more size. I really think that the Devils, they should keep an eye on him just in case of something that happens in Vegas. And Devils have ties to that team with their coach and Ryan McGill. I mean, yeah, they didn't cross paths right away, but it's like once a guy who coaches for another team knows a certain system, it becomes easier to know what players could possibly fit that system. This is why the Devils have gotten certain players like a Paul Cotter from the Vegas Golden Knights, and that fit that style of hockey.
I think for Paul Cotter, the scoring has chilled out a little bit, but that was to be anticipated. He's not going to rack up the scoring column every night, but he plays physical. Like in the previous game against the Blackhawks, I think he finished off with 4 hits, which didn't help my prize picks more or less, because I thought he was going to get less than 3 hits, because I was not anticipating for the players to be all that physical, just because it's against the Blackhawks. They don't really pose that much of a threat. But anyway, that was just bad thinking on my end. But yeah, I mean, I like Paul Cotter, what he's brought to this team, but I guess this sort of transitions into the next topic, which is you hinted at it with Ivan Barbashev. And I think the biggest thing for the Devils, and Nathan Bastian is already back. Curtis Lazar seems to be inching closer, but I think Sheldon Keefe has talked about it before too, which is they need more productivity on the bottom 6 when it comes to scoring. Like ever since we saw this a little bit when Stefan Nason was brought up to the captain line, the Nico Hischier line, and you sort of lost that scoring depth. Like Eric Hall's not going to do it every game. Paul Cotter's not going to do it every game. That 4th line was horrendously bad for a good stretch of games. Tomas Tatar, he's not the player that he was a few seasons ago, which disappoints me. But
yeah,
it is what it is. And
this
like
is why I gave him a 1-year deal. I mean, I'm talking to you, Fitzy.
Well, look, I was, as you know, I was big on bringing back Tatar.
I want him back too. But I think age is catching up with him.
Yeah, we kind of saw that a little bit when he was with the Avalanche, and also the Kraken didn't really generate too much. But I was just like, look, if he goes to the right place, maybe he still has something in him. And he was one of the more underrated players during that historic 2021-2022 season. He had a plus minus of like plus 43. He was racking up a decent amount of goals. I think the reason why people forgot about it is because you cement your legacy in the playoffs, and he didn't really perform all that well come the postseason. So people kind of forgot about it, and that's what they remembered him by, which is why I think some people would call me out on social media saying, yeah, no, don't bring back Tatar or something like that. But yeah, so I think the biggest thing for New Jersey is that they need some more bottom 6 scoring. Might change a little bit now that Bastian is back and Lazar is inching closer, but their defense is good. I don't care what anyone says. I think their goaltending is pretty solid, and obviously their top 6 is pretty stacked. What's your assessment?
Well, I mean, it doesn't hurt to get another defenseman. Just like, like Braden McNabb would be a good name to have around, or Justin Falk. Just looking at some guys who've been around the bend in the postseason, and it's good to have a little extra like accountability in the locker room. And guys like that usually don't cost you a whole lot when they get older, as they start to move out of their prime. But they're there to try and help you edge over from the first 2 rounds to get you to the third and eventually try and win a Stanley Cup. You don't need the sexy big name player that Vegas gets every year at the trade deadline. You don't need that pizzazz. You already have drafted your way with pizzazz, with Hughes, Hischier, Luke. You got Simon Nemec waiting in the wings to come up. You already have Kovacevic, who you acquired in the offseason. And you have Dougie Hamilton, who's starting to look like himself again from a few seasons ago. So I get people get on his case about him not being good defensively. Look, he's an offensive defenseman. Do you think someone like, let's say, Andy Green would be great in today's hockey with the way he skates? No, but he would be serving a good purpose offensively, because it'd be harder for him to skate back quickly, just getting back into his own zone. This is why you need a Luke Hughes type player.
And Luke Hughes, his numbers have gone down from an offensive standpoint, but his impact defensively, like I said earlier in this episode, Money Puck does not lie. And by the way, thank you for mentioning Ivan Barbashev, because I'm actually doing Hockey Grid, and and one of the squares I needed to fill was Blues and Golden Knights. So Ivan Barbashev. So let's see, Oilers, Blues, Wayne Gretzky, obviously, Predators and Blues, Ryan O'Reilly, needed Blues, Golden Knights, got Ivan Barbashev. But anyway, getting a little off topic.
That's okay.
Those grids are so much fun to do. So I think Luke Hughes, it's going to be interesting for him just because he's not really putting up the points like he did last season. But then again, it's just like his role, I would say, was a little bigger last season, because when Dougie Hamilton went down, the scoring had to come from someone on the blue line. And it wasn't going to come from Jonas Siegenthaler, John Marino, Kevin Ball, Shimo Nemeth. Nemeth identifies more as a defensive-minded defenseman who's capable of scoring, but he still needs to work on defense just a little bit more. So it had to come from someone, and obviously that's going to come from Luke Hughes.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking about like what the Devils can do with that core going, not just against the Blues, but you look at that road schedule and they get a day off each, and then they will be playing at Columbus, and they should, take it a little bit more seriously than Chicago, but should still put up good numbers against Columbus. I don't expect them to really put up as big of a fight as Chicago did, but still have to show respect, though. That'll be a Johnny Hockey day for New Jersey and Columbus. Devils will be home on that weekend on the 21st. 7 p.m. they play Pittsburgh. I expect them to put up a big fight against the Penguins. And then I think the one that I'm expecting the most blood between two teams is Rangers and Hurricanes on the 23rd and the 27th, and then the matinee game on the 28th. And then Mr. Trouba, the Devils owe Mr. Trouba a visit on the 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I'm looking forward to that one.
I mean, we should have our schedule circled for all these games, not just a couple games. And guess what? Ever since the first 2 months, the Devils have been playing north of 600 hockey. And this month, they played about almost 76% of a winning percentage. So this has gone really well. But I looked at a split saying that the Devils are over 600 playing against the Central. So this should be a bit more favorable, but I don't expect it to come easy.
No, it's not. And I'm so ticked that the Devils are traveling out to California around New Year's Eve, because I really wanted to go back to Los Angeles, go to Staples Center to cover that game like I did last year. That was a lot of fun. I don't think it's going to happen this time around, but yeah, I mean, the Devils have it made right now. And I said it in a recent episode that I know Craig Berube has formed something really good in Toronto right now. They're still first in the Atlantic Division, but I am very grateful for Sheldon Keefe and what he has brought to this Devils team.
And I find the way Sheldon Keefe is, because he's a younger guy as a coach who has experience. He knows what it's like to be a player, how to be more sensitive in a good way, also to be a little harder in a better way, also being able to cater to the players and understand everyone from a rookie to a French veteran to a veteran player and potentially a Hall of Famer. So I find the way he holds everyone accountable in a respectful manner to be the best thing that the Devils could ever ask for. And Tom Fitzgerald, he's pretty much hit over the years on a lot of things when it comes to managerial stuff. But if you minus off Lindy Ruff, who was a good developer, I mean, do the Devils get to where they are before they get to Sheldon Keefe, where they could evaluate where their core players were at? I mean, the thing is, you look at the way they're set up now, and they added guys like Brendan Dillon on the defensive end who bring that big physical style of hockey. This team has more authority than they did in the past couple seasons. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Devils, they go in the first couple rounds, they play those really tight games, and they irk out a couple of wins that they shouldn't have had, but they come out surprising people where they didn't think that the Devils would go deep as they expect. So my thing is, the Devils will make 1 or 2 moves for the trade deadline. They're going to be more low-key moves, in my honest evaluation.
Right. I'm like when Barry Trotz is saying that he might blow up Nashville or blow up the team. Let me rephrase that. Blow up the team because they haven't performed well at all this season. You can't with those contracts, but yet I'm still seeing people saying like Devils should get Steven Stamkos.
No.
So I'm like, no, they're not going to make splashy moves. Or didn't Lucas Raymond demand a trade out of Detroit, or was that just a rumor?
I have to look that up. I mean, I heard the rumor. I don't know if it's true. I have to check with our guy to see if it's credible. But Lucas Raymond rumor, trade rumor. I heard the Dylan Larkin thing.
Or was it Dylan Larkin or Lucas Raymond?
Yard Barker, Lucas Raymond, breaking news, highlights. Let me see. I don't know if that's.
Well, either way, someone out of Detroit wants out, I believe. That's what I saw.
Let's see. Heavy Sports trade pitch has Red Wings dealing Lucas Raymond to Vegas and Blockbuster.
Okay, so either way, I think
so. Get this. In this package, William Karlsson and Nicholas Hague. Hague's a good defenseman. Not exactly, superstar, but he's a good shutdown defender. Would go to Detroit along with William Karlsson, and the Golden Knights would just get Lucas Raymond, who's a RFA. And Lucas Raymond, if he didn't go first in that draft, before Alexander Holtz, he would have been my guy. Because those two were neck to neck.
Yeah, I get it. But
Him and Perfetti.
I guess the point I'm just trying to make is that the Devils at least in my opinion, they're not going to make a splashy move because, for one, I don't think they have much money to work with, but it's going to be like they trade away a draft pick to get a under the radar type player, and it's worked out for them. Look at Jonathan Kovacevic. No one anticipated, except for me, for Kovacevic to be this good.
And I think you used Hockey Reference for that one.
I did. Like I said, look at his defensive point shares rating. Look at his plus minus. Look at his hits. Look at his blocks. Look how he was utilized in Montreal. I was just like, he is very underrated, and he was like 8th on the Canadians in this statistic. But if he comes over to the Devils, he'd be one of the top players in that statistic. So yeah. My thing was like, no one was talking all that good about Kovacevic except for me. People were brushing it under the rug. I was like, I don't mean to brag, but I tell Jim Beeringer this all the time. I was like, I'm going to continue to talk about Jonathan Kovacevic and what he could potentially bring. Because, okay, so I just brought up my original tweet. When he was with the Canadians last season, defensive point shares rating 2.7, first on Montreal. Plus minus, plus 11, first. Blocks, 83, fifth. Point shares rating, 3.3, eighth. Hits, 75, eighth. I said underrated get.
When talking about hits and forwards and points, Dylan Cousins would be another interesting target out of Buffalo that the Devils could look at. Also, let's see, Alex Tuck. He has 44 blocks and 25 hits. I mean, for a winger who only has 8 goals and 16 assists, I mean, that'd be good value. But Samuel Lafferty has 27 hits and 6 blocks. And then, yeah, he's not a scorer by any means, but he's just a body to like play physical. Who has over 215 minutes and 27 seconds of ice time. So there's something there. Let's see, Peyton Krebs, another guy from the draft that I remember. He has 50 hits and 11 blocks, 10 points as a center. I mean, so Peyton Krebs, Dylan Cousins, all should be 2 centers that the Devils should look at from the Buffalo Sabres. Ryan McLeod, I mean, would be the cheapest option. But I really think the Devils really should, if they were going with a 25-year-old defenseman, if they did, who has the most hits for Buffalo and one of the highest number of blocks. If you don't want to go Connor Clifton route, you should go with either Bowen Byram but that's going to be hard to do because he's a linchpin. Henry Yokiharu is another key piece that they have, but you might have to pay a little extra for Henry Yokiharu as a defenseman.
Well, like I said, it's just going to be underrated moves for Fitzy and the front office. And Devils do have a weakness, which is, when Curtis Lazar and Nathan Bastian went down, you just saw that they needed more bodies on the bottom 6. And Curtis McDermott playing 5 minutes, that's not going to help you. But I trust Fitzy, but I think this Devils team is good for the most part. Before we close out today's episode with Jersey Joe, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. And now, let me tell you guys about Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even know I was paying for, and Rocket Money made it so much easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and research your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Okay, let's close out today's episode with Joseph Stanislaw. Take it away for the second time this episode. Before I have you share some final thoughts, Jacob Markstrom, second in the NHL right now in wins. What's your assessment on him? Do you think he gets an unnecessary amount of hate?
I guess I was a little skeptical over the summer, but you know what? Because of the defense, I eased my intentions, and I have gotten more positive with him because with the defense in front of him, and he's done well with a really solid defense. He's covered a lot of things that would have happened back in Calgary, where he was frustrated in Calgary. So he's really grown well on me, and he makes a lot of the harder things look easy. And that is saying a lot for what the Devils missed out on a year ago. Meanwhile, they were trying to get him, but they just couldn't pull it off with Calgary ownership. And their GM was trying to move him. So that being said, I really think he is one of the best goalies in the NHL, not named Igor Shesterkin or whoever you want out there.
Connor Hellebuck, reigning Vezina Trophy winner.
Yet, Jake Allen looks like he's going to play under that condition to move that other second round pick to Montreal. So the Devils might be able to keep that and move in another deal or use it however they want.
I say keep Jake Allen. He's been good.
Jake Allen is a guy that they could extend another year if they feel they want Nico Daws to just grow a little bit more. Tyler Brennan needs to just grow a little bit more. No longer Cole Brady, but you have Mikhail Yegorov, who's doing well in the USHL with the Omaha Lancers, starting to do a little bit better. He's not being as taxed in the USHL, and he's going to be in Boston University next year. So this, for me, means you should keep Allen and Marshall along for as long as you can, but not too long.
Right, because, age, Father Time is undefeated. But I say Markstrom has this year and next year remaining on his deal. If my memory serves me well, this is Allen's final year of his deal. I would say extend Allen for at least one more season. So, and if the tandem is solid in the regular season and playoffs, then I'd say you keep him around. But that's my personal 2-cent opinion.
I think with the cap going up potentially 5%, given per Gary Bettman, and this was mentioned on the score.ca, I wouldn't be surprised with the $5 million contracts the Devils have. Those become 5% cheaper. You know what I mean? It's like those contracts over time age well versus like Juan Soto money or Rick DiPietro money in NHL terms if you have a bad contract. And the Devils have a bad contract coming off in Ilya Kovalchuk's buyout. So
I will not be surprised if there's an MLB player within the next few seasons who signs a $1 billion deal. There needs to be a salary cap.
And I've been telling people who aren't necessarily hockey fans, I said, and college sports fans, I said, with NIL money and all this, I said, they need to follow the NHL with a salary cap floor and a salary hard cap, because now there's more prioritizing, and this makes it more competitive across. I even tell people, I said, I can hardly watch the Giants, yet they put on bad of players, and I can tell who's a very crappy NFL team. I can tell. It's harder to tell for me for an NHL team, because even with those contracts, you can tell who's really playing to keep their job and trying to help their team win and avoid too much going on in the draft lottery. Other teams are trying to compete, but it's the GMs trying to put the players on so they can get a higher pick.
Well, luckily, the NHL doesn't have to deal with that. Just having a salary cap. Anyway, the fact that we're on this topic, I think it's a good sign that I think we've reached the end of our time here, Jersey Joe. Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts are the Devils are exactly where they need to be right now. They have their S together. They have their act together. They have all the marbles that they got going, and I expect them to keep playing anywhere north of 500 to 600 hockey the way they're going. I expect the Devils to start making a few inquiries on some players in the Atlantic, the Metro at the bottom of the standings, as well as the Western conferences, and see what they can do by the time February, March trade deadline rolls around. And I mean, with the cap going up 5% potentially, you got to factor in potential extensions over the time. But we do have an NHL trade freeze coming up this holiday run, so there might be some moves. I don't expect the Devils to do anything other than something internal.
We'll see what happens. But I think, like what you said, Devils are in a good position. Don't get too greedy. Don't put yourself in the red when it comes to finances. Remember, Luke Hughes needs a new contract at the end of this season. Nemetz will need a new contract, not at the end of this season, but next season. So you got to think about that investment. And you can follow Jersey Joe at Pucks and Pitchforks, and also his X or Twitter handle that's on the screen and in the description. Once again, check out his work. He does an excellent job breaking down Devils prospects on Pucks and Pitchforks. Jersey Joe, the pleasure is always mine.
Thank you, as always. Be safe this holiday season, people. Don't do anything crazy. Just enjoy Hockey Miss, Hanamas, whatever you want to call it. And if you want to air out your grievances, get the Festivus pull out and just let it go.
I think in a country they do like they do actually fist fights, like the neighbors come together and do if they have a grievance.
No, Festivus. The airing of grievances. If you watch Seinfeld, that's also where.
I get the reference. I was just talking about like in real life. In real life, I can't remember which country, but I remember I remember studying some facts about Christmas, and people like in one country air their grievances by having fights, and it's like a hockey fight. It's all good in the end, but it's just like, hey, I had something against you, I gotta take it out. But anyway, like I said, I think we've run our course for this particular episode. Jersey Joe, let's not make it nearly 3 months of you not appearing on the show.
We need to work on this scheduling better. But that being said, that's the 2024-2025 initiative we're going to take seriously.
All right. Like I do to close out every episode, continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks for listening once again, and special thanks to my guest star, Joseph Stanislaw, a.k.a. Jersey Joe of Pucks and Pitchforks.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful holiday run. Let's enjoy 2025 as well.